Hello, voices. I'm Joe Troy, and welcome to our VoiceOver's audio adventure, a bi-weekly podcast where we talk voiceover, audio, and everything in between. My guest today is a creative director with more than 20 years in the advertising creative world. He's worked with some of the biggest names in media, including Bauer, and now at Global, where he helped shape the creative behind some of the UK's most recognizable radio brands and campaigns. Please welcome to the pod, Tom Woods.
Hello, sir.
What? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, man. I've just brought my daughter back from gymnastics, so I'm feeling worn out watching her.
boy, the things you got to do, eh? Well,
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you for taking time out of your day, at the end of your day, to speak with little old me. This episode, I just wanted to speak with someone as knowledgeable as yourself in the advertising space and just try to understand it better, the way it works, trends and such, and also where we may be going in the next few years. But as I always like to do, start with your expertise and your career has gone on for 20 years, like I said in the intro. So let's keep it short. How did you get into the industry?
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people that's never really known what I wanted to do. I still don't at 48. I literally, when I was finishing my A-levels and decided I wanted to go to uni, back then you had these UCAS or UCAS or whatever they're called forms. Anyway, I got a bit of a bollocking, if you pardon my French, for using so many of them. My teachers took me to one side and said, "You've got to decide what you want to do."
Yeah.
So I was literally changing from one day to the next because everything interested me. And my teacher said, "You've got to decide what you want to do. What are you thinking about advertising?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I've never really thought about that before." They were like, "Yeah, but it's the job where everything is different. Everything is, it's a bit cliched, but every day is a new challenge. Every project is, one day you've got to be an expert in selling, high-end cars. The next it's selling low-end bathroom suites and everything in between, fish, chips, baked goods, everything like that." So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And there was a course at Bournemouth Media School called Creative Advertising, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And you had to fill in a portfolio and stuff like that. You got to choose whether you were going to go as a graphic designer or a copywriter.
Yeah.
And I was really into I was getting quite into computer art at that time. I loved drawing early versions of Corel Draw and PC Paintbrush and all that sort of stuff. I was getting really into, I know, man, I know what I couldn't do with a bitmap. Wow. But I was getting into that. So I thought I'll go and try and be an art director in advertising, putting the pictures together. And I think I lasted about 6 weeks before. And again, another cliche. Sorry, I'm not trying to be full of them this evening. We had a lecturer, a guest lecturer, come in from radio in copy, and I just was blown away by this idea of the mind's eye as a canvas, painting pictures in the mind's eye and how personal that can be. So, like, if I show you a magazine of you've got a really nicely art directed shot of a beach and palm trees and, a waiter handing a drink and golden beaches. And that's all fine, but it's always going to be someone else's image. Whereas if I shut my eyes and use radio and use sound and go, you're lying on a beach, it's beautiful, the sand's under your foot is golden, the wind's whispering in your hair. That's my beach, that's my picture, I'm there. And I just couldn't get that out of my head, that idea that, you can, without expensive sound stages, without cameras, without lights, without big travel budgets, we can take people anywhere and turn them into anything. And do you know what, mate? It blew me away at 21, and at 48, it still blows me away. I think it's an absolute privilege to be able to do that and work in an industry where we just get to take people on adventures through the power of sound.
Yeah,
that was uni, and then it was kind of first job, Mercia FM in Coventry. It was one of the GWR, one of what now became Global, one of their small radio stations, Coventry and Warwickshire's better music mix. The first ad I ever wrote was illegal, because I didn't know anything to do with the rules. My second day, I hid in my mum and dad's understairs cupboard, refusing to go in because I thought I'd completely messed everything up. But yeah, just kind of kept going back, kept started making this collection of little ads I'd made on tapes back then. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And then kind of moved up through what was GWR, GCAP. Moved up to decided to make a bit of a life change. My sister's my best mate. She's a good girl, my little sister, even though she's 45. She was at uni in Leeds, and I wanted to be closer to her to like hang out and chill out and go drinking and stuff like that with. So I moved up to Leeds and went to Radio Air, then kind of made my way up through Bauer, became the Yorkshire regional creative head for Bauer, looking after some stations, and then they got asked by Matt Ellis to come back to Global, so kind of went from some more senior creative positions up to the RCD position I'm in now. So I feel very blessed in my career. I feel very, very blessed that, you know, I've been able to do something that I've thoroughly loved, you know, and you know, bar one or two sticky moments and bar, you know, one or two, oh goodness me, is this going to keep going? You know, I've done the job I've done now for, I think, do you know what, mate? You've been too kind to me saying 20 years. I think it's 27 years now.
Wow.
Without a hiccup. And like I say, man, you know, I feel blessed, really blessed to have been doing this so long and have had people believe in me so long. I keep wondering when they get really tired of me, or wondering whether I'm just, you know, one day they'll find out I'm just regurgitating the ideas I had back in 2002. But no, it's good, man. I still enjoy it, and working with people like you, great voices, great music. I'm not going to say radio industry. I think the audio industry as a whole is just it's a good place to operate, man. You get some really passionate, creative, wonderful people, and I think we all fundamentally want the same goal, which is to just make great work.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. As a creative director, what does your day-to-day look like?
So, I mean, I'm really lucky because my role allows me to still be on the coalface. So I still do a lot of writing. I've had creative head roles before where it's been, you know, one of those, well, you're good at that, so now we want you to just do the numbers around it. Spend a day looking at spreadsheets and being in meetings and deciding what you're going to hit for target. And that wasn't me. My RCD role at Global, you know, allows me to be in the thick of stuff. I've got two amazing writers that work with me, Jack Turner and Richard Poulton, just stunningly good, inspire me every day. I think you should always work with people you're slightly jealous of. Just blow me away with the sort of ideas they have. And my job, I see my job as making sure they've got the space to be absolutely top notch. I think that to me, I do numbers, we look after the figures, we make sure training's in place, we make sure our sales team's training's in place, we make sure we're up on the latest legalities, we make sure at the forefront of the industry, things we need to know about AI, things we need to know about, you know, to make sure that we're giving our advertisers the very best, whether that's a new voice on the scene or a new sync contact so we can do music synchronization. But I see the core of my job is to make sure that those guys have the space to be brilliant. If I can hold the wave of commercialism back and just those guys go, we've got the space to just dream and create, then I reckon I'm doing my job okay.
And what does the process of idea to broadcast look like?
Wow, there's a question. I don't think anyone really knows. If I'm honest with you, I've never really figured it out. I mean,
so to cut you off, well, it probably works both ways. So I would assume salespeople would contact certain clients, and in return, sometimes they will contact you.
Yeah. So I guess. Okay. So let's take the mechanics of it. Yeah. The mechanics of it is, salespeople, we have sales teams that go out, they meet with clients, they take a brief for, you know, advertising on audio, whether that's digital audio, whether that's our FM brands, whether that's podcasting, etc. They take a brief. Once the client decides that they do want to join us for that kind of audio journey, then we'll get involved. We'll take that brief that the salespeople have taken. We'll check it over, we'll formalise it, we may go back to the clients to have a further discussion with them to do a bit more of a deeper dive. And then it's about kind of ideation. We often do that as a team. So when we've got our first briefs, we'll sit down together and just just play about, really, looking for top line ideas and things like that. After that, it's, kind of your craft of copywriting comes in then. So it's, making everything fit for time, shaping it so it's all legal, decent, honest and truthful, all the boring stuff.
Mm.
And then when we've gone, we always pitch back live. So it sounds really weird. It'd be much easier to just send a client a piece of paper with the script you've written on. But fundamentally, it doesn't work like that. Radio is meant to be heard, not seen. So actually, part of our job for our sins is, we get on the phone or we get on a Teams call and, if we've written an ad for 17 women and a dog, we pretend to be 17 women and a dog to get the idea to come across. Yeah, there's an easier way to pay a mortgage, I'm sure, mate. But there you go. These things we do. So it's all in that presenting to bring stuff to life. And then once that happens, and we get sign off, then it's through to the production side of things, where you'll work with our team of producers, bringing in different voices, bringing in music, to get any contracts that we need with voice, or for example, doing a piece of synchronization on music, working with bespoke music publishers if the client wants a bespoke piece. So then it's the kind of physicality and the more mechanical creativity of putting that ad together before it goes live, really. But I guess you're on the other side of that. There's the how does one be creative? Well, that's probably the one I can't answer, mate. It just kind of is there. I think. I think one of the earliest lessons I ever had from an advertising great that came off out of the agencies of Buckingham Palace Road. He must have been the best late part of 70s when I saw him back in the late 90s. And I remember he was sitting down and, it was all from when advertising was proper Mad Men type stuff, even in the UK. And he said, the one thing you need to know, guys, is be a sponge. If you want to be creative, be a sponge, soak up everything. The best thing you can have is that arsenal of ideas and memories and experiences. The more you have, the more you can write about.
100%. That is probably the only thing you have to do as a creative, because you need to expose yourself to things. If you're just in a room all day, you're not really gonna have many ideas. I always try to, if I don't go places often, I like to at least have conversations with people and just have like-minded people who are doing things as well. So I
and
feel
you know what, mate?
Helps.
Patient is. That is one of the sharpest tools in our box, just talking to people, getting to know people. Because not only are you getting to know new stuff that you've never learned, but you also get to know how people talk. You get to know how people communicate. You know as well as there's a world of difference in good audio between that very clipped, scripted RP and just a natural conversation.
Yeah.
We don't. I've been lucky enough to interview and employ some amazing creatives through my career, and I've not once employed one with an English degree, because we're not writing to queens. We're writing for we're writing how people talk. We're writing colloquial, chatty, can't, doesn't, not, do not. It's you know what I mean.
Yeah. How do you cast? Because I know there's regional. I know there's obviously I'm in London, so I know sometimes I get stuff from the London office. But how does casting work?
So, I mean, this is something that I'll level with you, mate. I don't think we do enough of as writers. We've got a great team of producers, a great centralised team of producers that know our voice stable really, really well. And if you can 9 times out of 10 trust them to pick a great voice. I don't think we do this enough as writers. I think, and this is something I'm trying to, you're always working on yourself, aren't you? I think the best ads are the ones where you've considered everything while you write it. So you're not just putting those words on a page, you're thinking about who's going to read them. You're thinking about the music that's going to fall in behind them. You're thinking about the sound effects. It might be tiny in the left speaker right up there, but it might just make all that difference. I think we've got to see these things as cohesive packages rather than a script on top of some music read by a voice. So when I was creative director of London, I got a lot more into this because we cast a lot more agency voices. But I think it's...
Really?
Yeah, I think more than we do perhaps out in the regions, which we're obviously trying to change. But to me, casting is absolutely crucial. I would say that I have a conversation every day with the producer, every piece of work about who we're going to cast now and why, and listening through voice reels and things like that. Listening to old work by people as well. I think voice reels are great. They're always a great starting point. But it's nice if, we've got a great audio library of the hundreds of thousands of ads we've made at Global. It's nice to dig back into that and search by voice and go, Jesus Christ, Joe was great on that, and it's this kind of category, so that sort of thing. I think it's like anything, mate. It's an amalgamation of pool your resources to try and get the best output.
Yeah, I always feel that with, Global especially, I think if you've worked with X amount of people, producers wise, you kind of always work with those same producers because they know your voice. It's very rare that I'll get somebody completely random that I've never heard of. So it's definitely about relationships. But yeah, your archive of voices must be ridiculous.
I mean, it is. I think with that comes a certain amount of caution that we have to not get stuck in an easy rut.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some voices that you could probably quite safely put on 90% of your work and they do a really nice read. That doesn't mean we should. I'm all for trying new voices. I'm all for, like we've talked about, it's more and more now as the world gets smaller internationally. I believe there's a place for that very distinctive, for localization. Consumers love localization. They love to know that big brand has a shop in Leeds, has a shop in Birmingham, has a shop in the West End, and you do that with accents. You do that with voices. That is the easiest way to say I'm here where you are, by choosing a localized accent and a localized voiceover. So I think that's going to become even more important in the future.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's funny you said that because I remember once, I can't remember who it was with, but I got cast to do an advert for a Newcastle-based company, and when I got the script and the brief through, I was like, "Are you sure you got the right person?" I did it anyway, and everyone was happy. But I was like, sometimes I get castings through, and I'm more than happy to get the work. But I'm just like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, but equally, isn't it great to try something that you didn't think was kind of in your wheelhouse? Sometimes we do these things and we go, "Geez, I was actually quite good at that."
Yeah, yeah. What makes a great piece of creative, in your opinion?
What makes a great piece of creative? I mean, I'm lucky enough to see, we've got an incredible team of writers, not just in my region, but also, across the board at Global. So I'm lucky to see great creative every single day. And, I've written the odd one or two bits myself. I think a great piece of creative is a piece that understands what it's trying to do and does it in a way that entertains. I think a great ad shouldn't sound like an ad.
Okay.
I think it should be as enjoyable as our programming. Now, I know that's quite a big ask. No one's ever going to admit that they tune in for the radio ads. Well, they haven't in 27 years. If they did, I'd be a lot richer. But I think if we can come up with a piece that ticks the box for the client and actually, ticks the boxes of what that client wants, of what that client wants to achieve, either on a business basis or on a numbers basis, but also our listeners enjoy listening to it, and we enjoy making it. A good creative doesn't have to be clever. It doesn't have to be funny. It doesn't have to be sad. It doesn't have to make you go, Jesus Christ, whoever wrote that's got a big brain. Good creative just needs to work. It just needs to be an enjoyable listen that works. It's not a rocket science. And I think when you've written a really good piece of creative, and sometimes the difference between an okay piece of creative and a great piece of creative will be something. It could be a word. could be a word
Yeah.
on the end. I wrote a bloody car ad the other day, and it had a tag on it, finance subject to status. But we'd written it for this mafia dude to read for some strange reason. And the script was, it was all right. It was kind of funny. It was fun. But on the end, he said the subject to status in like this Italian voiceover. We had it demoed, and we just wrote on the end, because status is important, my friend. And it just the taking that stupid normal tag, subject to status, and taking it down that I'm going to cut your head off while you sleep mafia route. It just made the tags. It brought it to life by bringing that character in. I think sometimes it's as little as that. That's what takes an ad to a, oh yeah, now that is a piece of work.
Do you feel like brands utilize audio advertising enough, or do they focus more on the visuals?
I think we're in a really strange time. We're in a really, really strange time, because, I look at my daughters, and they are, I mean, I grew up listening to tapes and listening to the radio, because that was the tech we had. My daughters both have iPads. They both have laptops. Home from school, it's on the iPad. It's YouTube. It's Instagram. Yeah. We live in this incredibly visual world, and an incredibly false world. And it's a bit nuts. Every client is, well, how do I dovetail this into, the meta stuff I'm doing? How do I dovetail this into the reels I'm doing? And we either see that as a threat, or we embrace it. And I think our job is to embrace it and go, well, do you know what? Your audio is the center point. From your audio comes your tone of voice, comes your character, comes your brand sound. And that then bleeds into, we've just finished a big project with a client that's going on national TV, and they got the audio right first. Because actually, that is going to, underpin everything they do. And that's important. But we do live in a strange world. I think we've all got a job to do to champion audio. I've always felt quite sorry for radio, because since I started in my career, every year we hear that it's the death of radio. And I try not to talk in radio, I'm talking about audio nowadays.
Audio, yeah.
But it's never been the death of radio. And audio and radio get stronger and stronger and stronger. The listening figures go up and up and up. And digital audio and podcasting are massive opportunities.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we're in a really robust place, but I think we've got to start. I think the industry has damaged itself in the past by not being as proud of the work we do. Yeah, I think we've created through the 90s and the early noughties an industry where we think we can ask for 350 quid for an advert. What the fuck's that about? Excuse my French, we should be asking for, whatever the money takes to get the job done properly. If we need to cast the right voice, we pay for the voice. If we need to build the music from the first drum beat, we build that. I think the industry has damaged itself, but we're pulling out of it. And I think with enough of us and a fair wind behind us, we'll succeed, and audio will be bigger than it ever has been.
Yeah, it's interesting you said actually about radio saying, it's true when you say about it, dying. You hear that all the time. I can remember hearing that when I was a child, even but with that, like me, myself, I remember a few years ago, I was doing a lot more radio stuff, but now I do a lot more streaming stuff, like podcast stuff. So it's interesting to see the pivot and where, clients are maybe feeling that their money is better well spent in those areas. Do you believe that the social media has played a part in that, or do you think that's just, the way that they feel?
I think you can't ignore social media, and you can't ignore the fact that, of course, it has. It's everybody can be a creator now. That doesn't mean they can be a good creator. It doesn't mean they create good content. It doesn't mean their ideas are good. But with an iPhone, everybody can be now. And I think that is as beautiful as it is dangerous. I love the idea that we can all create content. I think that's great. The human being ability to have ideas is what sets us apart, to think and figure out problems, and that's brilliant. But I think we do need to proceed with caution. You can't argue that social media's not played a massive part in it, because of course it has. If I can go onto Meta or Facebook for pennies and film myself in my showroom and get instantly tens of thousands of clicks that are measurable. You've got to remember, FM radio is still a bit finger in the air. Does it work, doesn't it? You're asking your clients for that leap of faith.
Does it still work? Is there still FM radio?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me thinking about it now.
Yeah, we're still there.
Okay.
But yeah, it of course it's making a difference, but it's a difference that we can embrace. Or like everything, man, you can push against it and fear it, or you can lean into it and embrace it. And I think we don't know today what we'll know tomorrow. Who knows where our careers will go? Yeah, I hope they stay in audio, but are we headed to a place where a man like myself and a team like mine, where we actually do kind of almost like we bring video back into the fore, and we do really nice kind of almost loose streaming ads, and that becomes the norm for clients to put into their reels, and we help. I don't know. But that's what's exciting about the creative industries. Jesus Christ, if you were told me I'd be, putting stuff into podcasts or doing binaural audio, or I could, write an ad that will know the person's listening, what the weather was like there, when they were listening and what time they were listening, it would blow my mind. When I first started, it was exciting to put something in the left speaker and the right speaker. And now we've just got all this stuff at our fingertips. It's easier than ever to create. We've got to be able to harness that to create well.
Where are we at now in terms of advertising trends? What's in at the moment?
I mean, just my opinion, so I'm not claim for the whole industry. So it's probably just an inspired guess from a shed in Leeds, but I think sonic triggers, sonic logos are quite big. Everybody seems to be leaning into sonic logos. The car brands have all got them, and now all your big pharmaceuticals are getting them, and yogurts are getting them. Everybody likes a little 3-note da 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 at the end of their ads, especially on TV. Again, that seems to be quite big in the audio space. Clients I'm seeing a lot. I think we'll see a lot more written for the podcasting space, be that host-read stuff that we script or spot ads in podcasts. I think we'll see a lot more clients buying into that space. You can see it already, and I think that's only going to increase because they've got that real tangible playing a part in a podcast, and it just brings them closer to a presenter they love. So for clients, it's great, and for the listener, it's great as well. Because you obviously you can't go on an ambassadorship, but you've got kind of almost the next best thing with stuff like a host read and things like that. I think that's a space that has massive potential for growth. I think core audio, but from a branding level, probably has a lot to do. I'm not talking about writing a script. I'm talking about workshopping a client. We talk about a lot about this in our team. Every client will have a brand Bible. They'll have a nice PDF that an agency's developed, which will show them, the copy spacing, what font to use, what color to use, the white space around the logo. Audio is so important for brands now, especially in, kind of hands-free search with Alexa, with Echo, with Google Play, etc. Audio is so important. I think we'll see brands, wanting that established. I think we'll see brands wanting an audio Bible. So, and that's perhaps a place for us to get involved, helping clients from a base level, decide tone of voice, decide character, accent, dialogue, dialect, how a brand speaks in different areas. I think that's only going to get more crucial. There's a lot to scratch the surface of still, and that's what's exciting.
The next topic, we can go down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
But let's keep it short. AI.
OMG.
Yeah, I know. I hate talking about it, but you have to. And I wanted to ask somebody that actually works with it directly and has to come into contact with it, especially selling advertising and clients maybe coming back to you and asking for it or saying they want to use it. Because I hear a lot, I don't know what is true and what's not. In your experience, have you noticed more clients using it in the advertising space?
I think, you can't deny there's not an appetite for it, and you can't deny that it's not going to change the industry. Of course it will. And as it develops, it will only get better. It will only get better, and it will only get better. Personally, we've got to, as we've talked about so many things tonight, we've got to embrace it. We've got to embrace it. I don't think we should fear it. I'm on LinkedIn and I follow quite a lot of people, and I'm lucky enough to have quite a lot of people follow me. And, the conversation is all now writers, where are you finding your next job from? Because AI is going to eat you up. Yeah. I think people get focused on the I of AI, which is intelligent, which it is.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a massively useful tool. But we lose focus of the A, the artificial, because fundamentally that's what it still is.
Yeah.
It's still artificial. It still only learns from humans. It can still only create based on what we've already created.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to embrace that power. I think it's interesting. I think that, I don't think the copywriter's job is dead at all. I think copywriters and creatives in the industry, designers, copywriters, anyone creative will still continue to thrive if you've got the ideas and you've got the personality. I think AI we have to embrace as a useful tool, as part of our arsenal, as we would a keyboard, or as we would a set of graphic pens, or as we would, old school stopwatch for timing our ads. I think it's, I think if we accept it as something like that, you can tell an AI piece of creative, I believe, a mile off. Still, that doesn't mean it won't get better, and of course it will get better, and it'll get cleverer and cleverer. But I don't think we're there yet, and I think any creative with a bit of nous will be leaning into AI and thinking, okay, rather than letting it do what I do, how can I be one of the creatives responsible for making sure it does what it does properly? I think I think our roles may well go into kind of like moderation, or content checking, or teaching these things how to work at the level we expect. But it's not something I fear. But it is here to stay. It is here, and it is real.
Yeah. I would assume that people with smaller budgets would probably want to use it for maybe longer form copy, just because it makes sense. But I'm definitely in agreement with you. With the shorter stuff, the more feeling-led stuff, the more, punchy stuff.
Do you know what as well, mate?
Really replace it.
Audio is still, we talked about this right at the start of our conversation. Audio is fundamentally a human medium. It's human being talking to human being. What it'll never be able to do, say, a lot of my scripts nowadays will add a little bit for the voice to ad lib. I love a bit of interpretation and input from the voiceover. If I feed a, let's say it gets seriously good, and I feed a script into an AI voice generator, it will read that script back to me, and it will probably be passable. Yeah. But I'm not going to get any feedback or thought or human connection from that machine generated voice. I'm not going to get, like, you might go, hey Tom, why don't we try this as a can art, or rather than do you know what I mean? And that is, I think, where, and that's all will always be audio's power. It's that human connection.
Yeah, definitely. When you do create an advert for radio or whatever it may be, but obviously audio, how do you know and the client know that it's done well? Like, what metrics are you going off of?
I mean, metrics was always difficult in the past with FM, because you've kind of, you can talk about your survey area of a radio station, you can talk about the reach of a radio station, you can talk about the listenership, but it will always be a slight leap of faith that, that would translate into a phone ringing or clicks on our website.
Yeah.
Digital audio has made it a lot better for us because we've got the metrics. We know if an ad's been served to which IP address. We know if that ad's been listened through.
Okay.
We can count things like that, and we can serve up much better metrics. We know that audience profile that we're going to, where we can prove that we've served to that audience profile. So if you don't want 90-year-old grandmothers, we can prove that we haven't served it to any 90-year-old grandmothers. That's the beauty of digital audio. I think it's a really difficult question, mate. How do we know it's done well? I think if as a creative, you can sit in front of a client and go, do you know what? I've drafted at this and I've looked at it from every angle, and I've treated this brief like it was a brief for my own business, and given all my years and days of experience, I'm really confident that I can't do any better for you, and that this is the way that we'll position your brand in the way you've told me you want. And the client can go, yeah, do you know what, mate? I agree with you. Yeah, it sounds good. It feels like me. It feels like the brand I've been toiling over. It feels like what I'm trying to build. I think we've reached a good place then. I certainly don't think you could argue that you've got a piece of work wrong then. Now, yeah, it may not. You've still got that will it, won't it work? But I think then everyone is at least going in going, do you know what, we did our best.
Yeah.
And that to me is, lucky that I didn't have particularly pushy parents. I was always taught, you know what, you do your best, you give it a crack, you try it, you try your hardest at it. It's what I try to teach my daughters. And no one can fault you for that. And I think if we've given something a go, we've listened, we've tried to understand, and we've produced something that we're proud of and that our clients are proud of, that's a good place to end the story.
Yeah, I agree. If there's anybody out there that wants to get into your line of work, what's the first thing they should do?
The first thing to do to get into this line of work is to be interested, not just in the line of work, but in everything. Again, I go back to that, be a sponge, because the more life experiences you have, when you get to interview and some old sod like me presents you a sheaf of briefs for clients that you've got no interest in, the more experiences you've got, the better you will do. It sounds really cliched, but just don't give up. It's very, very, very hard to get into this industry now because of so many things we've talked about already, and the places are fewer.
Yeah.
But if I'm not a particularly special writer. I don't think. I think, but what I do have is I fucking wanted it.
You're not bad.
I wanted it. God, I wanted it. I wanted to prove, because I had a really crap time at uni, and I thought if I'm going to have that, if I'm going to go through all that, you better believe I'm going to make it work for that 3 years of crud. I think if you want something enough, then people will listen and people will see you, and you've got to be prepared to just go for it. If you want to be a writer, don't wait for a job to come up. God, everyone's email addresses. If you follow someone on LinkedIn and send them a script, figure out the thing pick that one thing in your room that you absolutely love and just write about it. Send someone a script. Try and get its main points into 30 seconds or 20 seconds and just send that to people and go, look at what I did. Look at what I did. I can do this. It's really cliched, but honestly, creatives are passionate people, and we like to see passion.
Yeah. Is it only Global and Bauer? They're the main ones, or is there other people in the mix?
So we're the main ones, yeah. But of course, you've got Communicore, you've got lots of smaller agencies, you've got loads of very good agencies that specialise in radio, loads of very good production houses. You've got smaller radio groups. There's still a big industry out there. Yeah. If you're looking for a career in it, then I would say that you want to be, global and Bauer are perhaps where you would want to be going, okay, that's the ultimate goal. But, there's a healthy industry out there freelancing as well.
Yeah.
Just because you're not employed by brand X or brand Y doesn't mean you can't have a cracking idea, send it off to a marketing manager, and maybe you'll get some freelance work.
Yeah, that's true. I would say most of the producers I work with are probably freelance anyway.
Yeah.
So that's true. All right. We are at the end, but I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Oh, I was born ready.
All right. 30-second or 60-second ad?
60.
Okay.
Give me time to play. Give me time to expand.
Okay. Early morning podcast or late night binge?
Late night binge.
Okay.
Late night binge. Get into that stuff.
If your job had a theme song, what would it be?
My job had a theme song. What would it be? Probably the theme from Minder.
Do you know what? I want to say I do remember that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to YouTube.
Dennis Waterman's finest. Dennis Waterman at his peak. Or Rolling Fulton Horses, mate. I don't know. Either one of them.
That's not a bad choice. The most underrated thing about audio ads.
How visual it is.
And the most overrated.
I'm probably going to get fired for saying this, but
beep,
over
beep,
the top, promo, overly polished, overly produced reads.
Yeah. I do with I might get fired for my job. I actually hate.
Mate, let's start a business. We're on our own now.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, whenever I have to do those kind of silly voices, I'm just like, who am I? Like, it just doesn't sound right. It's like, it makes you cringe.
It's not real. It's not human.
It's not. All right, sound logo or catchy voice line?
I mean, I'm a writer. I always like to be clever with words, so catchy voice line.
Okay, if you could voice an ad for any brand, which one?
I could voice any brand. If I could voice an ad for any brand, Lego, because I would be so excited.
That'd be quite cool, actually. Have you not worked with them before?
No, but I have a loft full, so
Wow.
That's the dream, my friend. Honestly, if Lego ring me up, I won't be in tomorrow. I'm telling you. This could be the end for me in audio.
You're trying to lose your job, aren't you? All right. You got two more. Dynamic ads, game changer or overhyped?
Good in the right place. Very good in the right place.
Okay.
But
Dynamic
like anything,
ads are horrible to record for voiceover. They're
yeah,
just horrible.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not the next best thing. Like anything. Useful as a tool if you need to use the tool.
Yes, I agree. Definitely. Okay, we're on to the last one. And it is one word to describe the future of audio advertising.
Awesome.
Aww. You love your job, and I love that about you.
Thank you,
that you have to, and you're being very modest in when you were saying before that you're not the best writer, etc., etc. You wouldn't be doing this for this long if you weren't good.
Thank you, man.
So talk your shit.
Thank you, man.
But Tom, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I really hope to be working with you soon again. And thank you for your time.
Mate, the privilege was mine. Always a pleasure to work and talk with you, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone, thank you for listening. And if you're watching, thank you also. And until next time, bye-bye.